kick it off, jump right in here, guys. What do we want to cover? What do we need support on? What questions do we have? What do we got?
Yeah, I guess I'll start off. So I was on an offer through a friend of mine. It was my first high ticket offer for the past 8 months. And he's kind of scaled back and stepped back and just focusing on delivery and kind of maintenance of what he was selling. So his website building and hosting. And now that I'm looking for another role, I feel that, yeah, I'm landing interviews and stuff, but I'm just not getting the offers that I would like to see.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so mainly just help with passing interviews.
I guess so, yeah. And yeah, a buddy of mine, I was in a coaching program as well, and he said he suggested you guys, so I figured I'd check it out and hop on and, like I said, see what it's all about. So
Sweet. Sweet. Good to know we're getting some referrals. Biggest thing with passing interviews, obviously, I haven't heard how you've performed on these interviews, but what I would say is you want to treat the interview process the same way you would treat improving your sales skills. So most people, what they don't do is do interview mocks, right? And then get those reviewed so they can actually get some tangible advice on, like, okay, maybe if you answer this question this way, or this is how you could better frame your experience. This is how you could, show up to start passing some of those interviews. So what I would suggest you do if you are getting a lot of interviews and just not passing them, start doing some interview mocks and bring those to this call, and let's just review them and see how you answer interview questions, how you go about it. Generally, obviously, business owners are looking for confidence. They're looking for direct, short, sweet answers. They're looking for the proper equipment, microphone quality, camera quality, all that stuff. And then there's some nuances depending on the type of offer you're applying to. If you had to guess, what would you say is the reason that you're kind of not getting past some of the interviews? Is it mainly group stuff, or is it the one-on-one?
I feel like it's a 50-50 split. Some of them are groups, some of them are one-on-ones. I think a big thing for me is I don't have call recordings or I don't have access to them because a lot of the people I was selling to, they were medical professionals.
Mm-hmm.
So just like the security and privacy behind it, plus I don't have access to the business email anymore. Um, so I don't have calls to send them, and I'm straight
Mm-hmm.
up. I'm like, yo, this is what's going on. But I feel it's super inauthentic to send them a mock call as well, and I'll state that. But if they want one, I'll send one their way. So I don't know if
Mm-hmm.
that's like a bad frame or a bad angle to take because I don't have those call recordings from the past 8 months.
Yeah. Are they asking you for call recordings?
Yeah, most like I'll get through the whole interview and it won't come up, and then at the end of it, they're just like, "Oh yeah, so next step is to send me some call recordings, and then we're kind of interviewing other people. We'll assess everyone's recordings and go from there." And then I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, I don't have any, and I don't. Not that I don't want to send the mocks, but like I said, I feel like it's inauthentic and it's not like a true display of how you perform live,
Mm-hmm.
which I'm upfront about. And again, I don't know if that's hurting me, but that's kind of what I say. So a couple of them I've sent mock calls to with them full no, and a couple of them they just say okay, no problem.
Yeah. I think it would be hurting you a little bit. I mean, the biggest thing with mock calls is it depends on what that business owner is looking for. And if they can find what they're looking for, it'll be beneficial. If they can't, it'll hurt you. I would say you're right on the standpoint of that it's not really a great indicator on how you'd sell in a live scenario. It does, but at the same time, it is better than nothing in terms of how you'd sell. Like, I would get a better indication of how you'd sell with a mock call than with nothing. So I would definitely, I tell everyone, put together a portfolio of your best mock calls. Don't just send random ones. Put together a portfolio of your best mock calls and cut it up into kind of like a highlight reel, just like how an athlete would have their highlight reel, right? As a sales professional, right, you would want to have some examples of full calls and how you do there, whether it's real if you can't get mock. But then I would also cut up how I'd handle certain objections, how I, do discovery, how I pitch certain offers. And I would have different clips of the mock call and have them chopped out, because then when I send that to a business owner, depending on what they're looking for, they can jump right in and find that. because I've worked with business owners that are like, they're really adamant on handling objections a certain way, and that's what they're looking to see. And when you send them a 1 hour mock call, some people are just too lazy to go through the whole thing to find what they're looking for. Some really like to see this type of pitching. Some really want to see, okay, discovery is the most important thing. Just like how you guys probably see sales trainers out there who are like, forget everything else, be a great at handling objections, and you'll always close a deal. And you'll see other trainers that are like, oh, objection handling doesn't matter. If you have a great discovery, you just won't get objections, right? Same thing, business owners will also ascribe to an ideology like that. So some are looking for like a really deep, great discovery. Some are like, the discoveries, I want to see a good one, but what I really want to see is how they handle objections, and vice versa. So kind of give them the full mock, but then also give them different clips of different stuff so they can kind of just go in and be like, oh, wow, this is actually organized. And then they can just click into what they desire to see, what they think is most important to them, and make their decision that way. And you're going to be one of the few people that actually have stuff organized, because it does take work. So most people won't do it.
Right.
So you're going to be more memorable and stand out just based off of that. And it shows that you take the role seriously, and it shows that you have a level of organization that most reps don't. So all of that will definitely help you on that front.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, I'll definitely put that together later today. Thank you.
Yeah. That could be part of it. Also, it could just be how you're answering the questions and stuff like that. So I would definitely do a couple mocks of like the general, like the 5-10 general questions you get in an interview. And if you want, you can bring it to this call. We can review it, and I can be like, hey, if you framed your experience in this way, you might help you about a little bit as well.
Okay. You guys do this weekly, by the way, or is it like
Every Monday.
every Monday? Okay. Beautiful. Thank you.
Cool.
Thank you.
No problem. What other questions we got? What else do you want to go over, guys? We done for the day? That was quick.
I have a question. So sorry, my camera. I'm not pulling my camera today, because I'm on my tablet right now.
No
But
worries.
I'm starting an offer tomorrow. Actually, I've been doing training for the past 7 days.
Mm-hmm.
So my main thing is, there's no base for this. It's just commission.
Mm-hmm.
So this is for an SDR B2B position, right? So like, would you say it is a good idea to maybe stack with another offer? Because I feel like maybe it's going to be a lot. I've never done two offers at the same time. To be honest, I like to dedicate my full time into one. But that's the main thing that is kind of like asking myself, what should I do?
Yeah, it really just depends. There's a lot of factors that go into that. There's not like a one size answer.
Mm-hmm.
Most SDR positions do have like some kind of base or salary. When you say SDR, what are you selling? Is it like a software, or what are you selling?
No, we do content creation for businesses. So it's like
Okay.
marketing. Yeah,
Okay.
the niche.
Is it a monthly retainer, or is it like a one-time package?
One-time package, but so it varies, right? So we have from 6K, 14K, 24K.
Okay,
So it's pretty
6,
high
14,
ticket.
24. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Are you dealing with inbound leads, or are you sourcing your own?
So we're getting the leads from I think master classes and Facebook ads. So we do
Okay.
outbound, but they feel like an application.
Oh, okay. So yeah, that's typical then. That's a typical appointment setting role. Um, I mean, it sounds like a decent role. Do you know how many new leads you're getting on a daily basis, or you haven't looked into that yet?
I don't know how many leads because we're gonna set up the go high level like they're setting up today, but I know we have to call like around 150 people per day, so there's like a bunch of leads.
Okay. Yeah. As long as you're are you the only setter on the team?
No, they're actually hiring a bunch because they can keep with the flow of how many leads they're getting. So they're hiring like four more new SDRs, and I'm one of them.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
Is this a new team?
Yes, new team onboarding. They had another one, but I think the offer owner separated, something like that. A lot of people left too, but um, I think that's kind of like normal. A lot of people like they jump from offer to offer, which I've done before, and I absolutely regret it. So this time I really want to stick to one offer and just
Mm-hmm.
grow within like the offer in the company. So yeah, but yeah,
Interesting.
it's a new group.
Yeah, it could turn out to be a great offer. or not, depending on how good they are at onboarding and these kind of things. Is there already closers on the team, or is it like founders closing the deal?
No, there is closers in the team already. Yeah.
Yeah, how many?
I don't know. Don't want to lie to you. I haven't met like the entire team yet,
Okay.
but I don't know. I don't know. I'm not gonna lie.
Okay, so I guess is it just so the offer's been around for a little bit, but the setting team is just new?
I think so. Yes. Yeah. They
Okay.
separated. They've been doing this for like a year or more. I don't know exactly how long, but the offer owners separated, so we're doing the same thing, but yeah, just with one of the offer owners.
Okay. Yeah. It sounds like if you've got enough, like if you're getting like 20 to 30 new leads per day for yourself to dial, I
Mm-hmm.
would say that's pretty solid. Like I've seen, like setters usually are able to book like 4 to 8 calls a day on that type of
Mm-hmm.
volume. Um, Depending on how good the closers are, it could be a really solid offer, especially at a 6 to 24K price point. What's your commission? Is it 3%, 5%?
5.
Yeah, yeah, it could be a solid role. In terms of whether you should take on another one at the same time, I wouldn't do it right away. Like you're just
Mm-hmm.
onboarding, just getting started. So I wouldn't
Yeah.
just like take on two roles and onboard two companies at the same time. I would
Yeah.
see for a few weeks how you perform at first.
Okay.
Um, but it doesn't see like it seems like a standard role where you have decent lead flow and everything. The only, I guess, interesting point or maybe thing to look out for, orange flag, would be the fact that it's kind of they're bringing on a bunch of reps at the same time and it's a little bit newer in terms of the setting team. But if
Mm-hmm.
there's closers there that are performing and know how to close this offer, and it's
Yeah.
just a case of maybe they're trying out a new funnel where they're plugging in setters, yeah, I think it's definitely something that if financially you can, like if you've got a runway of, if this is your full-time thing and you've got a runway of, like 30 to 60 days, I think you should just go all in on this one and focus on performing well. If there's proof that the closers have closed and they can close, then you just got to get their calendars full.
Okay. Perfect. Yeah. Sounds great. Also, the SDR manager, so she was a setter before, and I think she
Mm-hmm.
said she made 5K her first month calling
Mm-hmm.
all leads from November. I think she
Mm-hmm.
made this in April, which I think is pretty solid.
Okay, so it sounds like a team rebuild then, because if they have a sales manager for the
Yeah.
setting team, then it just must be like a rebuild. I don't know
Yeah.
why they would be in a state of rebuild, but yeah, it seems like there's a at least it's a little bit established, so you should be fine. Just kind of going all in to crush that, because the biggest thing, setting roles are interesting when it comes to part-time. The setting role is one of the worst kind of positions, like the outbound dialing setting role is one of the worst positions to kind of do, like to juggle offers with, simply because usually if there's enough lead flow you would just dial more to make more
Yeah.
rather than being like, well, I'm going to dial half the day on this offer then dial half the day on that offer. Would I
Yeah.
just make the same if I dialed all day on one of them, provided that there was a good amount of leads? As a closer, it's a little bit different where it's like inbound, where it's like, hey, we're going to book you 3 calls a day. And then this other offer, we're going to book you 2, 3 calls a day. I'm taking six
Yeah.
calls a day between two offers. That's one thing. But as a setter, it's kind of like, why stop dialing here to dial there if I just keep dialing over there? You know what I mean?
Exactly. No,
Um,
makes total sense. Yeah.
yeah. So you should be fine if you grind it out for a month, see what happens, and go from there.
Okay. Perfect. I'm excited. I'll let you know. Keep you updated.
Yeah, definitely, definitely.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you.
No problem. What else we got? Any other questions?
Hi. Yeah, I just kind of wanted to get an idea on um, getting like on a fast track. I just wanted to see if you would kind of recommend the way I'm like approaching this.
Mm-hmm.
Would you recommend just, I'm familiar with mock calls and kind of a layout of closing. Would you recommend I just jump into mock calls right away and in the background do the training and then do mock interviews and start to apply? And then also setting versus closing, because I've never had a sales role or closing role. Do you recommend I start with setting
Yeah.
or apply both?
So you can go for whichever role you're more interested in. To break in without experience, it is just easier for the setter role, but you can definitely just walk into a closer role. But I will say it is easier to walk into a setting role for sure. But so yeah, if you're like, hey, based on both roles, the lifestyle, like, would I be okay with, dialing 100 people a day, talking to 20 of them, setting, 3 to 5 of them? If that sounds fine, cool. Closer role, you will do some outbound to kind of supplement your calendar, but primarily booked in calls into your calendar, where you show up, have the conversation. It's a little bit more pressure on you to perform and make the sale. If that is something you're more interested in, then go for that. Do you have a preference, or are you kind of like, I'm down to do any? What's the fastest way to get in?
I would say the fastest. I'm willing to put in the work, you know. But if I can, get experience like on mock calls, and feel confident closing, I would say either one, but the quickest would be the best
Yeah. The
preferred.
quickest and easiest would be the setter role, simply because the conversation's shorter and there's a lot less nuance and skill required to facilitate that conversation. Like the set a call, typical setting call might be like 10 to 15 minutes. Typical closer call is going to be an hour. So just simply doing role plays and mocks and repping it out, you can rep out tons of setting mocks, in a week versus closing mocks. And then there's so many aspects of the call: pitching, objection handling, doing a deep discovery rather than like a surface level one, that requires a lot of time to develop and get good at. So if you're brand new, setting roles a little bit easier. Um, all you need to worry about though before you start applying is, do I know how to facilitate one of these calls? Am I comfortable with the skeleton of it, right? You don't want to get too married to any one specific style or framework, because at the end of the day, whatever company you start working with is going to have their own ideology, their own framework that they're going to want you to conform to, at least at first. um, so you don't want to get too in the weeds of like, this is the only way I'm willing to run the setting call, because again, the company you work with are going to say, hey, this is the way we've seen work, so do it this way. um,
Mhm.
so you want to just say, okay, do I understand the overarching framework of, this is how you typically kick off a call, this is what we're trying to accomplish on the call, this is how we qualify, this is how we determine if they're a good fit, and I'm comfortable kind of plugging in any type of niche or offer into that framework, and I can kind of make it work there. Once there's some comfortability of having that conversation, you can go ahead and start applying. Realistically, it comes down to comfortability with facilitating a call, having the right assets that's going to make it more likely that you land the role, kind of like what we were talking about with Jesse before. Having some, examples of your sales skills. If you don't have the experience, it's even more necessary, because you need something to say, hey, this is how I sell, or this is my skill and this is where I'm at with my sales development. So having a couple role plays there to showcase how you'd set a call. And then your intro video, really nailing that, because that is the number one determining factor of how many interviews you land in most cases, is a solid intro video. So having those assets ready, having the framework down in your mind to where you don't need to like read off something on the side to facilitate the conversation, then you can kind of just go balls to the wall with applying for different roles and reaching out to companies. Realistically, it's all about balancing your time across different things, and you shift that time towards what's more pertinent in the moment. So you're always going to need to develop your sales skills. You're always going to want to grow your network in the industry. You're always going to want to improve on the assets and things that you have. At the beginning, the bulk of your time goes to developing your skill. Then you start to shift more of that time towards outreach and building your network and connecting on different offers. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes perfect sense.
So yeah, right now, do some role plays, bring it, let's review it. And then as soon as you feel comfortable, just start applying. Don't overthink it. A lot of closers or setters, they're trying to like perfect everything before they get on an offer and try to sound perfect. But in reality, you're only trying to perfect whatever style of sales, whatever sales training you're following is telling you to sell like. And then a lot of that's just going to be different on your first offer anyway. They're going to say, hey, by the way, we sell this way. And you're like, oh, I spent like 2 months trying to perfect selling this other way. you know?
All right. Yeah.
Cool. Hopefully that helps. But yeah, do some role plays, get it reviewed once or twice, and then start applying. Go from there.
Sounds good.
No problem. Sam, what's up, man?
Good afternoon. I took some time to actually make my intro video, and
Mm-hmm.
I am getting Loom views, and I also an employer also reached out to me, but I just like my question is, some employers are asking for like on the site, like on the Rep Select site, it says you make a 1 minute or a 1.5 minute video. Certain employers are asking for like 3 minutes or 2 minutes, and certain employers are asking for 5 minutes, which is the maximum for a Loom video.
Mm-hmm.
Like how, what do you say in a 5 minute video?
Well, are they typically they'll ask like they'll have questions that go with that, or are they just saying like it'll be like send me a 5 minute video and say this or talk about
100%.
this?
100%.
So you would do that. I mean, it's a little ridiculous to ask for a 5 minute video, depending on if there's like a lot of questions. I don't know if they want you to just fill the gap with a lot of yap, but um, uh, realistically, what I take with those is I want to ask myself like, is this an offer I really want to land? You know,
Yes,
and
I have looked at offers. I saved some job applications. I come from a finance background, and these are pretty good opportunities. So I
so then I would
definitely
follow
want
the
like
instructions, you know, and I would take the time and apply properly. If they ask for 5 minute, make it 5 minute on the dot. If they ask for a minute 30 seconds, make it a minute 30 seconds on the dot. When it comes to sending out applications, there's quality and there's quantity. Some people find a lot of success landing interviews just spamming everywhere. Um, 300 applications in like 2 days, and they get a bunch of interviews, and then they whittle it down from there. Some people, they find a lot of success just going deep, not wide, and sending really high quality applications to a select few companies, and in networking with the reps that already work there, and all of those things both work. I would say if you're looking for better offers overall, like you want to land an offer with like a really top company, it is better to be more scalpel with it, to be more meticulous of like sending really good applications to a select few and networking with the other reps that are there and connecting with the sales manager and all that stuff. If you're someone who doesn't really have much experience and you're looking for your first offer, you might find some success just going balls to the wall, getting what you can get so that you can land something to start building your track record. Again, both work. It just depends on what you're looking for. So if you're like, hey, these are companies I'd really like to work with, it might take me an extra 20 minutes to send this one application because they're asking for a 5 minute video, but it's worth it, if that's somewhere you'd want to work with. I wouldn't send if it's something I want to work with, and I wouldn't send them a 5 minute video and then just keep it pushing and wait for my reply. I would do the extra mile where I send the video, I connect with, I go look them up on LinkedIn, look who works there, look for the sales manager, look for the other reps, reach out to them, because if I'm already doing the work of making a 5 minute video for them, I'm just going to go all the way with the work to make sure I at least get in front of someone. You know what I mean?
No, I looked up the employer on LinkedIn, but I never sent her a friend request or whatever. Just doing research on the company.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Second question is that when, let's say, an employer reaches out to you, like some like media company, and I was just joking around, just doing some applications, just to see what kind of feedback I get.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been months, and since I've been on the website, thanks to you, I think the site is gold, man. Like I just created a Loom video, and within 2 days, the employer reached out saying, "Hey, send me your Loom video." So I did. But what is the next step? Like, how do I like really close the deal between the employer and me?
Yeah, great to hear that you're getting some interviews really quickly there. That's what it's built for. Um, the next step would depend. So, I mean, if someone messaged me and they said, hey, send me the Loom, and I just sent it, and then maybe there's just nothing, or I'm just waiting, you'd follow up, right? Let them know, hey, what did you think? Hey, let them know I'm ready to, jump on and do an interview. Let me know when you're available. Send me your calendar link. You can reach out off platform as well. So again, some of them might use the platform a lot. Some of them might not use it as much. So maybe shoot them an email, shoot them a message on LinkedIn, connect with them. It's all just about staying top of mind, especially in this industry. So the difference with a lot of remote sales offers based from other like just other jobs in general is with bigger companies, especially. A lot of bigger companies have dedicated HR, dedicated recruiting teams, people whose full-time job it is to hire talent. And with some of these offers, the person doing the hiring is either just a sales manager or the founder of the company. Especially when it's the founder of the company, there's just so many things on their plate that they're dealing with. They're looking at marketing, they're looking at training the sales team, they're looking at hiring for the sales team, they're looking at systems, they're looking at delivery and coaching. They're looking at so many different things that sometimes it could just slip through the cracks of interviewing that one other sales rep. So follow up will take you a long way. Even when I was managing a sales team, there was times where I meant to interview people, but like I was interviewing and then all of a sudden something changed with marketing for 2 days, and it's like, okay, well, we got to go look at that. Why did our show rate dip? Why did this happen? And then we spent 2-3 days fixing that, and then you go back and you're like, okay, yeah, I forgot I got to book some interviews with these guys. So following up, staying top of mind is huge. So I'd follow up in the app, but then also outside of the app if possible, especially again if it's a company you really want to work with.
Now, next question is, like, I was watching a video that you had uploaded today, like what do the hiring managers look at?
Mm-hmm.
And the first thing that you mentioned was you responding back in time. So what would be a typical time? Like, let's say someone reached out to me. What is the typical, like, well, I just don't want to,
It's just the
do
faster
something
the
like
better.
me, the
It's
faster
just
the better.
the faster the better. Yeah.
Um,
You're talking about like responding speed when a recruiter reaches out
correct,
to you.
correct.
Yeah. The
Yeah, yeah.
faster the better, especially with recruiters, because they are dealing with so many applicants and their job is to get applicants placed fast, because most recruiters are also competing. Like a lot of business owners, what they do is they go to like 5 recruiters and they say like whoever gets the talent first gets the money, right? So
Right,
if
right.
you're a rep who doesn't respond quick, they might, like, even if you don't land that offer, the chances of them sending you more, and I've actually, like, I've worked side by side with recruiters, they tell me this, the chances of them sending you more offers goes down, because they're like, when I send an offer to Sam, he takes 2 to 3 days to respond, or he takes a whole day to respond, and I need people that are going to respond quick. And so yeah, the sooner the better.
Um, One more question I had is there was a job posting on Cove, like it was posted, I believe, today,
Mm-hmm.
um, for a company called Cove, and they're looking to hire a sales development representative.
Mm-hmm.
So I went on there, and basically it asks me, do you need future require sponsorship for employment visa status, H-1B, blah 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 blah. Roles are currently limited to US based employees.
Mm-hmm.
So these, like, I'm based out of Canada, like. I don't think there's a chance for me to apply and get success in this role.
Some US companies, when we're looking at like the corporate side of remote sales, like SDR, account executive, you do run into a lot more of, again, the corporate stuff of like needing to relocate or needing to be there for tax purposes and stuff like that. I'm in Canada too. Some companies, they're like North America, like they'll say US, but they're really fine, like Canada, they see Canada as the, what is it, like 53rd 52nd state or something like that, and they're fine with that. um, you you have to kind of apply and see, but again, with those ones, I wouldn't like kind of go all out with my application process at first. I would kind of see if that's an issue, if especially if you're in Canada and they're like, we need US or North America, you probably would be okay, unless it's a hybrid role where they want you inbound.
Right. Last question was, I just shared my Loom video with you. I just wanted your feedback.
Yeah, we'll take a look at it, and then we'll get to Aurora. We'll take a look at your question and go from there. Let me just share screen. You guys let me know when you can see the screen. Let me just go ahead and share it. Share. Awesome. Can you guys see that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Good to go? Alrighty. Let me share this here.
My name is Sam.
Hello, my name is Sam. I'm a seasoned business development and account management professional based out of British Columbia, Canada, with over 16 years of experience in remote sales management, in technical sales, and financial services. I have a proven track record of delivering up to 25 million in annual sales year over year with a close rate of greater than 75%, cash collected 100%, meeting all KPIs and SLAs, and 100% NPS when it comes to client satisfaction. My core areas of expertise lie in new business development and client acquisition, relationship management, consultative and solution-based sales, financial analysis, team development and leadership, compliance and risk management, negotiation, and closing skills. I'm looking at a remote position with a high-performing team, wherein I'm looking at long-term career growth opportunities with a higher ceiling. I look forward to meeting you and learning more about the goals for the position. Have a great day ahead. Thank you.
Overall, good video. There's nothing wrong with anything you said throughout it. The only thing I would say is
When it comes to client
small
satisfaction,
things is like just look at the camera and I want you to come across like you're just talking to someone, right? Right now it looks like you're just looking at something and you're just reading it and being like, and then the whole vibe and energy of it is a little bit of just like boredom, like, all right, let's get this over with. So this is who I am, this is what I do, da 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 da. Like I want you to just like look into the camera and be like, hey, and actually introduce yourself like you're pitching the best product or service ever without fake energy. You can be yourself and be calm, collected. You don't need to be like over the top, but I do want to see it a little bit more lively where you're looking into the camera and you're like, hey, I'm pitching the best product or service ever, you know? Because again, they're going to assume how you sell yourself is how you're going to sell their product. Your track record is great, your experience is great, and that will carry you far. But what will carry you even further is them seeing that personality, that eye contact with the camera, and that desire to be there. You know what I mean? Cool.
makes sense. Thank you.
Awesome. And Woro, what's up, man?
Hey, hi, how you doing, man?
I'm good. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing good too. I just out of curiosity, are you from Nigeria or do you have Nigerian roots?
I do not. No, I am half
Oh,
Trinidadian and half Jamaican.
okay. Now the reason I'm asking actually is the spelling of your name, Eiye. In
Yes,
Nigeria
it's
we used to
African,
have
yeah.
Thai. We used to have Thai, Taiye. That's kind of like for twins. So I thought probably maybe it was just picking up. I mean,
Yeah.
it's great. The last guy that talked, I actually saw your video too. I enjoyed it. But just like you said, it came out very clear. I really I wasn't even as clear as that in mind, but the fact that it seemed like you were reading it, I think that was really like a factor. But your communication was very clear. So, but the question I want to ask, moving forward is, thanks to your platform though, because I got uh, I just did some applications and then, it turned out that, I got a contact from someone there and, we just got, conversing and, so right now I kind of like have a deal with them, but it's a commission stuff. But the issue now is I went in as an appointment setter. I went in as an appointment setter and while doing the research, because I have experience in what you call it, copywriting and marketing.
Mm-hmm.
It forced me to kind of like go on a robust research. So the more I researched on the issue, on the product, the more I saw lots of things that I felt I could control. So
Mm-hmm.
what I want to ask, my question is, we talk about setters and we talk about closers. It's like they are two separate things. But what I'm saying right now is there a possibility of kind of like owning the full process? Like, okay, let me get the leads and let me make the conversions. Because from my experience, as a copywriter, direct response copywriter, I see myself, bringing in some more things that I probably feel maybe the company might feel like, oh, this might not be necessary now, this might not be necessary now. But now we're talking about my time. I am talking about my time because it's a commission based business. In other words, maybe for the first 90 days, we have to do commission. And then, after that, we'll talk about maybe getting base pay and stuff like that. So working as a setter, I see a kind of, 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 a kind level of risk because in my assessment with the company as well, I feel like yes, they are good in their game, but you know, there are some things that I maybe that's just me anyways. So, but the bottom line is that what do you think about owning the full pipeline? Because let me not even stray so far. We talk about setters with appointment setting. We talk about closing, but now in terms of owning the full pipeline, what do you think about it?
Yeah, I think full cycle rep is often better, and it's more typical to traditional sales. Separating the roles is usually what companies do when they're bigger for efficiency. That way, reps are spending their whole time, their whole day focused on one area. But that's usually at scale when there's so many leads that doing both just isn't efficient. Especially smaller companies, full cycle reps is needed, or really high ticket companies that are just operating less corporate and more small team. I'm a big fan of it. I think every sales rep should at least, even if they do or don't have to, should know how to both set and close. And the benefit of it is you can request higher commission. You know, when I was a sales manager, I had my sales reps close inbound leads, but whenever they had a no-show or whenever they had free time, they went and self-set closed, and they got like 10% for the closed deal and 15 to 20% when they set their own deal and closed that one. And I saw that self-set deals, like they usually had like a 30% close rate um, on deals that were put on their calendar, but when they self-set, that close rate went to like 60 to 80%, simply because they got to get familiar and have a conversation, and obviously only setting people for themselves that they thought were a good fit and would close, right? So yeah, I'm all for it. I'm all for negotiating double, if not like at least 50% more commission for it. And if you can make a good deal with a business owner, it's definitely the way to go for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I really appreciate that because that has been what I was thinking. Really, the appointment, the commissions even for the appointment is less than 5%, maybe like 3, 4%. But then the full cycle is about 10 to 15%. And I'm thinking like if I put the kind of energy that I put, because like I mentioned earlier, I like going vertical. If I'm doing something, I like to go deep into it because that is what has brought me this far. Even when we had our interview, it wasn't really like a big challenge for me, because of the experience and then the vibe, that I was able to bring it, not because I was better than the other people, or just the passion and the base and everything and the focus that comes with it. So talking about the owning the whole cycle, I think I really resonate with you because I kept having this thing, although it was my fault. They asked me where I wanted to be, but because of I was transitioning, I was feeling like, okay, maybe I should just start with setting appointment setting first, but the more I went into the appointment setting, the more I realized that the reason that made me go into sales was not really because of appointment setting, but the closing itself. Sales for me is more of an extension of my capabilities. I'm not doing sales because I just want to make money. I'm doing it because I feel there's a leakage of my potential, and sales for me is a way for me to close, that gap in that regard. So talking about owning the closing, and you mentioned something like when you even own the pipeline, there is a tendency for you to increase your closing rate, to over 50%, which is something that I agree, because in sales is the relationship that you have with people from the onset, that carries on into the closing. But when they begin to see someone, that is different, it kind of like creates some bottlenecks and stuff like that. So I really appreciate the what you just mentioned. I had a second question, but it kind of skipped my mind because you gave me a very good answer. So when I get it back,
All right,
thanks.
no
I'll come back.
problem, no problem. That being said, do we have any other questions at all?
I do, if that's okay.
What's up, Lisa?
Hi, Tony. This is my first time. I'm a very new member for the last 24
Welcome.
hours. I just want to say thank you so much for this wonderful community. So I have a background in sales, high ticket sales. I did Dan Ox course many years ago, and I have my own business for the last 13 years. I've just posted a message on the community group chat, and at the moment I wondered where do I get started? I've filled out the profile to the best of my ability for now. I know I do need to upload some recordings recordings. It has been a while, so I don't have any actual recordings. Although I am very confident in, being able to get those if I do maybe some role plays or something like that. What would you say is the best way for me to get started? Number one. Number two, if I was to get started, I wonder what the minimum commitment required hours wise. Let's say if there's an influencer I'm closing for, is there like a bare minimum I need to commit to? Thank you.
Yeah, we'll handle the bare minimum question first. It kind of so the thing about this industry, there's not a lot of like I don't want to say standards. There's not a lot of consistent factors across like all offers out there because to like you said as an influencer to start an offer you make some content, you gather an audience, you learn how to run some ads, you put together a landing page and you start selling something, right? So it's not like you're always dealing with big corporate companies that have a tons of like consistent factors across a lot of them like you would see in other industries. So it really just depends on what you negotiate with that business owner. And the blessing is the fact that you can kind of negotiate a lot. So for example, if I said most full-time offers as closers, they would take like 6 to 8 calls a day. Even on sales teams where we had full-time closers, we like most closers wanted to end their day at like 5, 6 p.m., which makes sense. We even brought in some people that lived on a different time zone that only took calls from 6 to 8 p.m. just to gather some of those like after work prospects. And they were the only person taking those calls working the evening, and all it required of them was like 2 hours a day. So it really just depends on the deal that you negotiate out with the business owner. I'll say this, most business owners, they have the mindset of like, you hit KPI, I don't really care what you do, right?
Yeah.
KPI meaning like the key performance indicator. If you're an appointment setter and they're like minimum 3 sets a day, and you hit 3+ sets a day, and those sets have a good close rate on them, they're quality sets, then most business owners won't care if you work 3 hours or if you work 8. You know. Now, obviously, if you're able to perform in 3 hours, probably just makes sense to at least work 6 to 8 because you just make more commission and perform better. But if you really didn't want to, that would be okay for most offers. Same thing in the closer role. As long as you have a good close rate and you're profitable for the team as a member, they're not going to be fussy about how much time you really work. But I would say that if you're looking to do this full time, you would want to at least allocate 4 to 6 hours for being on calls, maybe an hour for doing admin and follow up and pipeline management and all that stuff, end of day reports. And then depending on the size of the team, they might have 30 minutes to an hour long team meeting, either a couple times a week or daily. So typical work day of like 6 to 8 hours is, again, with the bigger companies. I've worked with solopreneur influencers where we never had any team meetings. We just talked through WhatsApp. He had a YouTube funnel that just booked calls on my calendar, booked like 3 to 4 calls a day. 2 to 3 of them showed up, and that was it. I just did other stuff on the side while I took his calls, closed them at a good rate, and he was happy, didn't complain ever, right? So it really just depends.
Thank you. And for the recordings, what is the best way to achieve those for someone like myself who's been out of this industry for some time and don't have any recordings?
Yeah, the community is probably the best way, where you just drop your calendar link in there or just go through, people have their calendar links, and book calls with them. I would always reach out to them as well, or comment on it and say, hey, I just booked with you. Make sure you guys have a time. Even on these calls, you know, sometimes people are active, sometimes people aren't in terms of the group. So when you jump on these calls on Mondays, like bring your calendar link and you know, just put a quick message in the Zoom chat and be like, hey guys, anyone trying to do role plays, here's my calendar link, and drop it there. So you know there's people here. So the chances of you getting role plays booked pretty quickly or go up a lot. But yeah, and then even on the Rep Select app, we have like the Rep Network where there should be a good amount of calendar links there to book with people. But I would probably mainly go to the community on School, where it says like book mock calls, post your own link, go through, check other people's links and book there. And then try to pair up with like 2 or 3 people max, and then just establish some kind of consistency over the next couple weeks. because if you're always trying to like book with new people all the time, and some people are no showing and some people are showing, and it just can become a hassle. So I would just pick like 2 or 3 people that I can say, hey, are you down to meet like every Thursday for the next, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and just role play for like an hour or two.
Great. Thank you so much for your help.
No problem. Sam, did you have another question?
Yeah, I was like I took your feedback and I watched my video once again. And I like to Lisa's point, uh, it feels very scripted. Uh, so what's the best like when I was making like I've also been out like this was probably my first video that I made.
Mm-hmm.
However, the thing is that like I'm not very good at this. So what's the best like when I started making the video, I went through the tutorial wherein you had basically posted the video like how what's the best practice to make like a 1 minute video of yourself. But how do you sound natural and not scripted and like your video, like every time you post a video on YouTube or whatever, man, like it's solid.
Mm-hmm.
How do I sound like, or
Yeah,
what's the
so
best?
my YouTube video creation process is um, I just put like 3 bullet points and I just yap, cut the beginning, cut the end, and post it. Like that's how I make my YouTube videos. I don't like when I just started on YouTube a long time ago. I used to like script every line and like chop, chop, chop. But like now, again, you get better at what you do a lot of. So I remember when I was coaching people one on one, mainly, don't be afraid to record like 25 intro videos and use the best one. You're not like if you recorded one, it's not going to be the best one. Record like 30. You only got to get one good one, out of the batch. Like most of them are going to suck. Record 100 and then pick the best one, and then that one will get you a ton of interviews. When I record YouTube videos now, it's like, okay, today I'm going to talk about intro videos. What are some of the points? I got to talk about camera and quality and equipment. I got to talk about communication skills, and I got to talk about how you frame your track record. Cool. Those are the 3 bullet points, and then I just turn on the camera and I just talk about that. Nothing else is planned out in the video. I'm just talking about what I know. You know yourself. You know your history. You can talk about yourself for 1 minute. The first time you do it it might suck. But the 30th time you say it, you're gonna get like a really solid one where you're personable. You hit all of your points. It was solid, and then you're just gonna use that one. You know what I mean? So
Makes sense. Thank you.
yeah, don't overthink it, guys. Like, don't think people are just natural talents at everything and they just recorded one intro video and it was great and they upload. Most of the great intro videos you see are like take 30, or more. So yeah, don't worry about it. And they get through a lot of bad ones before they got to that one. And one row, what's up, man? You're on mute. You're on mute. You're on mute. You're on mute. Can't hear you.
Oh, sorry. I just remembered the question I wanted to ask. The question has to do with role playing. It's what's the dynamic behind this role play? Because I'm kind of skeptical in terms of what do you sell during this role play, and how do you know the state of your listener? Kind of like if the listener is trying to vibe with you in reality in that particular context, and what are you also what are you actually selling as well? So I want to just get a very good idea on how this kind of works, so I can
Yeah, good question.
make the most use of the time and stuff like that.
Yeah, most people will sell like sales training when they do role plays simply because the person that they're role playing with is usually someone that's also in a sales community who is there because they bought sales training. So the call can be realistic because the person just plays the person they played on the real sales call they did to get into that community, right? So it's more realistic. That's good. You don't have to do it that way. I always say like the role plays can double as your assets. So you want to role play ideally something that you will most likely be selling so that when you show your role play to a business owner, it's relevant. So for example, if I know I want to apply for like a fitness coaching offer, I'm going to probably sell like fitness coaching in my role plays. That way when I send them a role play, it's relevant, right? So that's like in a perfect world. The only struggle with that is the prospect that you're with. If they don't have any like pain or desire for that product or service that you're pretending to sell, their answers are just usually all over the place and make no sense because they don't know how to play a prospect who needs help with that, because they don't. So the sweet spot would be if you find something that you would like to sell and that person genuinely in their real life would buy something like that, even though they're not gonna buy it. Maybe they won't buy it anytime soon, but like I would talk to them and be like, hey, I mean, would you ever buy this? Would you ever buy that? And then role play that and just have them be real. Like, just tell them to pretend it's a real sales call and you're actually buying this, and go from there. That's why most people just do like sales training role play, because the people that they're role playing with have bought sales training. That's why they're there. So they can just actually answer the way they answered on the real sales call from when they bought it. Because the hardest part about role plays is making sure the prospect responds like a real prospect and isn't just like making stuff up. The hardest one is when you're trying to role play like B2B stuff and the person has no idea how a business owner would think or act in that situation, so they're just like saying stuff that make no sense. But yeah, I would do that. I would talk to the person and be like, hey, what are some products or services you would genuinely want to buy high ticket, and let's just talk about your actual life. Don't try to play a character, because most people are just not good actors. If they were, they would be actors, but they're not. So most people suck at playing a different character, so don't make them.
Yeah, I mean that's a very good. That sounds more like what I would love to do, because I've always been thinking about, I don't just want to go and be blabbing, kind of like, because I just want to talk, But then also I'm also thinking of the possibility of. I was once a trainer though. I once trained as a social media instructor. I also trained as a Facebook for Creator instructor, here in Lagos. But then I realized something, that while I was teaching the students, they encouraged me to go into content, that I should do content, because, the kind of advice I was giving to them, a lot of them, they really appreciated it and stuff like that. So, tapping from that, what I will want to know is, will it be nice? Would it not also be a good idea, to know what the person is aspiring, and then kind of like creating an offer around what, like, for example, I say, this is what I want to become, this is what I want to become, and then selling around that line. Because now what we're looking at how best can you position yourself, in a place of helping people to solve problem. Why I'm saying that is, in HubSpot, for example, I'm a very big fan of HubSpot. I use their, kind of like tools and stuff like that. And then they have a selling methodology, where they talk about kind of like, you discover the client's problem. It's just like 4 steps. And then you connect with them. And then when you connect with them, you explore, kind of like you explore their problems. And then what we call closing, that's what they call advice. Kind of like you just advise the customer in the end. That's where your product actually comes in the end and stuff like that. So I'm looking at it from that angle, like, if anybody will probably say, okay, want to do role playing, the idea of, selling a product around the person's aspiration, don't will that not get better results in terms of, helping
Hello
to
there.
bring
Thank you
out the
for
growth
calling.
and stuff like
AC Cleaning Bees.
You're
Hey,
not on
Akil.
mute. There we go. I muted him. Yeah, I
that?
hear what
Okay,
you're saying. At the end of the day, I mean, essentially what I said, right? Like, sell something they would actually buy, whether it's something they desire or something they struggle with. Just don't overthink the role play too much, because again, if you're coming up with like all these custom products just to do like a quick role play, it's like, you know what I mean? Role play is about reps, right? Think of how an athlete improves their skill. They isolate one part of their game and then they rep it out till they get better. So you don't always, when you role play, like a lot of reps where they go wrong is they try to do a bunch of full calls, especially closer role plays. You can kind of get away with it as a setter, but as a closer, I can only do, like, it's going to take an hour to do one rep, right? And that's like if an athlete just scrimmaged all day in their sport, they just played games to get better. It's like, no, isolate a part of your game and rep that out. If you're like, hey, I'm really struggling with kicking off the call with a difficult prospect who's like gives bad attitude at the beginning of the call, you can say, hey, you know what? All I'm going to do is introduce myself and start the call. You kind of like push me off or be like weird about it and let me practice getting past that, or grounding us back into the conversation, and then that takes like 3 minutes, and in like 30 minutes I can practice that like 30-40 times. Don't do the math on that, I just gave random numbers, but you can practice that a lot, right? Same thing if you're like, hey, I really struggle with pitching, or I really struggle with handling this specific objection of like spouse objection or money objection, then you're going to isolate that part of your game and be like, all right, I'm going to throw that objection at me, and I'm going to handle it. And then we're just going to reset, and we're going to handle it for 5 minutes, and we're going to reset, and we're going to do that 10 times in this session. So a lot of your role play as well, think of how an athlete improves at their sport. You know, if you struggle with passing, you're just going to do a passing drill. If you struggle with shooting, you're going to do a shooting drill. If you struggle with positioning, you're going to do positioning drills rather than always doing the full thing over and over and over again. So that's what I'd say to that as well. But yeah, if you can find something where the person would actually desire or actually struggle with, then definitely do that. Hopefully that makes sense. Wasim, you had a question?
Yeah, it does. Thank you.
No problem.
Hi, Ty. So I joined today as well to the job board. So my question was, a lot of offers require you to have experience. So what would you advise for a beginner in the high ticket space? Like, should you just go ahead and apply for the role, or
I would still apply.
What would you suggest?
I would still apply, because I'll say this: people with no experience, complete beginners, are usually, there's some like businesses that have said I'm looking for beginners, but usually they're accepted, not looked for. And what I mean by that is, again, when you put out a job post, just like when you put out an advertisement for anything, you're looking for the best people possible. You're looking for the best fit. So you're never going to put out a job post that says, I want someone who's never done this and is not as good as someone who has. Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? So that's why a lot of beginners might get discouraged, but it's not that they would never accept someone without experience. It's that you don't put out an ad. Like if you put out an ad for something that's $100, you wouldn't put in the ad, we'll also accept $20. Like, you know what I mean? You're going to look for the people who can afford it, who are the best. That's what you're looking for ideally. And then you whittle down from there to get the best you can get. Right. So again, there's going to be a lot of job posts that are like, must have experience, but that doesn't mean they would just never take anyone that doesn't have.
And maybe like cash collected, or, you know.
Yeah.
Like
it's the same thing with that. There are some who set hard rules. I would say if you're a beginner with no experience, be willing to take on lower OTE offers to build your track record, even if it's part-time while you do your day job or whatever you're doing now. Take on those lower OTE jobs, because even when I was a sales manager, I was leading a team where everything was structured and well. It's just by nature of the ticket. It was a 3K offer, so the OTE was like 6 to 9K, right? Nothing wrong with the offer. It was just lower OTE than what maybe a really experienced rep would be looking for. And just by nature of the fact that it was a 6 to 9K OTE, lead flow, everything, show rate, everything was dialed in. But experienced reps are like, well, I'm looking for like a 10 to 20. So no. Right. And we just couldn't bring on highly experienced reps just by nature of the OTE being low. You know what I mean? Everything else was perfect, but the OTE was just low. It's just the price point, nature of the offer. So because of that, we had to take on people with less experience, right? So those 3 to 6K, those 6 to 8K, those lower OTE offers are going to not only be willing to hire beginners, but they'll be forced to in a lot of positions, just because a lot of people, they look at the OTE and they go, oh, I'm just not going to apply, or, oh, I'm not looking for something that low. I want to make this, even though it's kind of like you can make more money at a sales offer if you just sell more. It's not really this 100% indicator, but a lot of people, they treat it that way. Like just because the OTE is 9K, that 9K is the actual ceiling, right? So yeah, I would, if I was a complete beginner, if I was, had a full-time job, I would try to take on something on the side that I can do to build my track record. So I had some numbers on the resume so I could get the bigger offers. Or I would take on multiple lower OTE offers to then make the sum. Like if I wanted to make 10K a month, I would take on like 2 5K type offers if it made sense, and go from there. And maybe if my skill set allowed, I could drop one and just really go hard on one to make the same amount. You know what I mean? So yeah, I would do that.
And what about like offers that are, for a different time zone. Like I'm probably like 7 hours from the US.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, it depends if
should
you're
I
willing
like,
to work U.S. hours. If you're willing to work the hours that
or
they require, then you can go ahead and apply. Usually it'll be fine. But if you're not willing to work those hours, then you're just not willing to work those hours.
or what if like they say we need like it's like a full-time job. Does that actually mean like 8 hours, or as long as you hit your KPIs?
Yeah, it's in sales. It's usually just like as long as like you're not getting clocked like by the hour. You know what I mean?
Oh,
Full time
okay.
usually just means that they have a full calendar worth of calls,
All
which
right.
that also just fluctuates week by week. Like some weeks you have a ton of calls, some weeks calls are a little bit lower. Um, Again, it's not they're not clocking you for 8 specific hours consistently, and again, a lot of these things are
Okay.
negotiated. Even if it's a full-time role, if they're like, hey, we've got a bunch of evening calls that no one's willing to take, and your time zone makes it so that those evening calls are your morning and you're down to take those later calls, then you can negotiate that as well, right? So again, the job post will say a lot of things that can be negotiated, so don't overthink what it has there listed.
All right. So one more question. So I'm looking more into like a DM setting role.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so what would you advise? Like, should I role play with ChatGPT, or how would that work?
Yeah, you could do that. Do some like show you just have to showcase examples of how you would sell. So like AI DM chats would actually be a good example. Maybe you could role play with ChatGPT and have it generate images to make it look like Instagram or LinkedIn, you know, of the
All
chat.
right. Okay.
That might be a good way to like show examples of how you'd set calls. Um, DM setting the proof side of things is a little bit more difficult because you have to somehow prove that you can have good conversations via DMs.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would say any examples that you have, screenshots of chats and those kind of things would be good.
All right. Okay. Cool. Thanks, man.
No problem. Final questions. Adrian, what's up,
Yes,
man?
hey, Ty. I'm good. How are you?
I'm good, man. What's
Good,
up?
good. Yeah, so I landed a new role last week. It's for a service-based business, and they're saying that the OTE is 3K to 5K, with estimated 20 to 30 inbound leads per day.
Mm-hmm.
Come to find out, that wasn't the case last week, so I had to ask the owner to pay me $1,000 a month just because the work isn't where it's supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
He agreed, so 50 a day. But the caveat is that 50 a day only if there's less than 20 leads per day. If more than 20 leads per day, then it's just commission only.
Isn't this an example right here of like how you can just like negotiate random stuff? It's like you know what I mean? He came in, it was commission only. He said there's a leads to be here. Leads weren't there. Negotiate $1,000 a month based on how many leads. And again, nothing is set in stone, guys. Nothing is set in stone. Just negotiate what you need to make it work and go from there. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So, that's going good so far with my other two clients. The only issue that I'm running into is going back to the answering rate. I've noticed that using Go High Level, and like most of the clients I use now use Go High Level.
Mm-hmm.
Persons aren't answering the phones really. Leads are
Mm-hmm.
coming in from Instagram, from Facebook. I'm texting them. They go cold. I don't know if it's a skill issue or just the overall, like, people have gotten so used to people calling them every day that they no longer are less inclined to pick up. I'm not sure.
Well, how many people do you talk to on a daily basis versus how many people do you dial?
It's a week. So last week I closed 10 sales. I would say my close rate was about. Uh, okay,
No, no, I'm
I
just
don't
talking
know.
about conversations. Like, how many people do you dial a day, and out of those dials, how many people do you have conversations with?
I don't have the numbers on that for
You
last
don't
week
track
to
that.
tell you. No.
So then,
Well,
how
I
do you
should
how do you
be.
know people aren't picking up if you don't track it?
Well, I mean,
It just feels like
I
it.
talked to. Yeah, yeah, it feels like it. Yeah, pretty much.
and that's the one thing you definitely don't want to do in sales. You have to track everything, because I can't tell you how many times something felt some way, and then when I actually looked at the numbers, I was like, oh, this is actually pretty good. You know what I mean? Or I tracked the numbers and I was like, oh, there's this one thing that's just missing that if I changed would change everything else. You have to track all your numbers, because I genuinely can't give you any good feedback unless I can look at the numbers. What I would do as a sales manager with my setting team is I had them track like dials, conversations, offers, sets that day on calendar, sets that actually showed on calendar, sets that were offered that day that showed on calendar, closes, revenue that was generated, cash that was collected, and they track those numbers daily. And then I could see if there was ever a shift in the percentages anywhere. I was like, hey, we're offering less people. Are we offering less people because the leads are worse, or are we offering less people because we just don't want to offer, because I don't know, maybe we're just afraid to offer certain people for some whatever reason. Like, and it's as simple as I saw one of my closers as well. His offer rate used to be 80%, went down to 60%. His close rate went down. I said, is it a lead issue? I said, no, the leads look the same. And I said, hey man, just go back to offering 80% of people. And he said, okay. And then his close rate went back up. Like, you know what I mean? So you need the data. And if we can look at the data, we can compare that to industry averages, or compare that to your previous data and be like, is it getting better? Is it getting worse? And why? So the first thing I would have you do you have any type of metrics or tracking sheet that you use at all?
I built a custom sheet for that, but my issue is it's not yet dialed in where I can do things very, very fast, because to go high level, copy the customer's name, phone number, it's a lot of back and
You
forth.
don't need all that. You just need like general numbers. So for example, in the resources tab in the rep select community, I have you can make a copy of this sheet. I'll share screen and show you. Once you hit make a copy, it'll pull up this sheet right here. So for example, you would just go to today, and you would just type in like, I got this many new leads today. I got like 5 new leads today, 20 new leads today, whatever. I dialed 100 people. Out of the 100 people, I had like 5 meaningful conversations. Out of that, I set 1 person. And today on the calendar from previous sets, I had 3 people on the calendar today. 2 of them showed up. The closer said that he offered both of them, closed one of them, and generated like $1,000 cash, and away we go, right? And then you can look at that and be like, okay, your
Hold on,
conversation
sorry.
rate.
Sorry, Ty.
I'll send you
Before
this.
we get to...
You'll have this. You'll have this form.
No,
But
no,
yeah, pretty
I
much you want
already
to
have
track
it.
this
I
stuff.
already have it, but can you hear me?
Yeah. What's up?
I'm just saying that the biggest issue is actually counting that 100 for in your
Yeah,
example.
but if it's go
Like,
high
how do
level, shouldn't you just be able to go to the settings and it'll say this is how many people you dialed today? Like almost every type of dialing software will have like daily metrics, numbers of some kind. Like you don't have to count this is how many people I dialed. It's got to be somewhere. It's got to be somewhere in there where it's like, oh yeah, outbound dials today was this much, and then you just copy that number. So I would go look through. It's got to be somewhere. And maybe if you don't have access to it, ask your sales manager, be like, or the founder or whatever, and be like, hey, can I get access to the metrics of like the daily dials or whatever? Because there's never a time where you got to like do a tally. Go high level, Allaware, all of them. It's always somewhere. And then it'll also say like new leads that came in. Like the metrics will show most of this stuff. Keeping track of how many people you talk to shouldn't be too hard, you know. And then the sets on calendar, I don't know how you usually book them, but that would just be the case of like if you can go look at your closers calendars, and I mean if you're setting them, you could also like be like, if you set someone for, let's say it's January 1st, I set someone for the 10th, I can also just pre-fill this out and put a 1 there, you know, and go from there. But that way we can at least be like, hey, your convo to set rate is dropping, or your conversation rate, which would show your pickups and actually how much conversations are coming in, why is that dropping, you know? Show rates dropping, offer rates dropping, set to close rate, show to close rate, offer to close rate, and we can look at these percentages and be like, oh, there's the issue, what changed there, you know? And then we can actually do something about it, you know?
Cool. If I may ask one last question for this.
Yeah, go ahead.
How do I keep track of follow-ups? So let's say someone says, yeah, call back in 30 minutes. And what typically
Just put it
happens
on your
is,
calendar. Like, just make a Google event. Like, if they say call me back in 30 minutes, I use Google Events to make sure they're legit. I'll be like, yeah, I've got a couple calls today, but I can put you on my calendar for about 30 minutes from now. What's your email? And if they're like legit, they'll give you their email. And if they're not, they'll be like, well, and then they were probably never going to pick up in 30 minutes, right? But if they're like, yeah, my email is this, and then I'll be like, cool, sent you a calendar invite for 30 minutes from now. Talk to you soon. And then just actually put it on your Google Calendar and go from there. Or you can like start using a calendar link. A lot of setters would have like take a lot of load off themselves by booking in calls. We had a setter who was booking like 4 calls a day consistently, and when he started texting out his calendar link to people, his sets went up to like 6 to 8 calls a day, because he was also booking inbound triages for like just like a 15-minute calendar link on Calendly, free link. He was booking inbound appointments for himself, and yeah, you have the show rates and stuff like that there, but you would have those 15-minute conversations, and then let's say you had like 3 or 4 of those a day, and if your KPI is like 3 sets a day and 1 to 2 of your sets every day come from that, how much like load does that take off your shoulders from dialing? You know what I mean? And then on top of that, like, it helps a lot.
Maybe I have the wrong plan, because to be exact, this is a service-based business, so it's more like they come in and it's more like who gives the quote the fastest, who closes the sale the fastest.
Yeah, if you're doing like just over the phone,
it's a cleaning business pretty much.
Yeah, you can still. That doesn't mean you can't set appointments with people though. You know what I mean? Like you can still set like triages, and you can get creative with it, man. Like if people genuinely can't talk right then and there, like why not set an appointment?
All right.
You know what I mean? Yeah. Like why not? Yeah, man. I would like to give you a proper quote. Like I wouldn't want to just throw random numbers at you. I've got some availability later today between this time and this time. Where in that block do you think 15 minutes works, where we can sit down and I can get you a proper quote so we can help you out with XYZ? And then you can, like, if they genuinely can't talk now and gotta go, then you can set a proper appointment.
Cool. All right. I will try that right now, actually. I'm at work now,
try
so
it.
yeah, I'll try that.
Try it out.
Cool. All right. Thanks, Ty.
No problem. So we will end it there for today. Hopefully this was helpful for all of you. As usual, we'll post the recording as well in the community. But yeah, for those of you that this is your first time, we do this every single Monday. If you have the Closer College sales training subscription piece, the $67 a month one, we also have an additional sales training focused one on Wednesdays that are a little bit smaller. So check that out if you'd like, but if not, I'll see you guys on Monday again. Have a good one.
All right. Take care.
Later.
Thank you.